Hi there, tech people. This is Sean Worker, your host of Adapter TechX, where we explore the business trends for travel, tourism, hospitality, and retail across a variety of topics. This is all powered by our friends at Hunter Gatherer and Glenn Hausman over at No Vacancy Live. Check him out if you want to hear about general topics in hospitality with lots of cool guests, and he's done over 500 plus shows. So lots of contact to check him out at novacancylive.com. I'm here with Florian Montag. He's head of development at Apaleo, formerly with HotelHero, where he and his co-founders sold HotelHero, a comparison site for tech, to Apaleo recently. We just finished our one-on-one rapid fire chat, where we spoke a lot about what the tech trends are, mainly the lack of choice when it comes to legacy systems that are PMSs in the hospitality and tourism industry. They're kind of cumbersome versus the more agile companies out there like Apaleo and Muse and other support systems like Cloudbeds and others. And so we're going to continue that conversation about tech trends, fads, and other topics that are in probably talking really about how we get connected. It's great to be back with you. So let's kind of continue the conversation where, you know, there's clearly a problem to solve and there was some frustration out there. And like I mentioned, there's other companies that have kind of done filling gaps and making it easier, like Guesty, like Cloudbeds, like, you know, obviously Apaleo, Muse, and others that are playing in the space. What drove the problem solving where all of a sudden, which is kind of unusual, sadly, in the hospitality, retail hospitality space, where startups, you know, we don't have enough startups that deal with our problems. So, you know, how do you feel about that? Why do you think it's grabbing? What problem are they solving for that these legacy players appear not to be able to do?
That's definitely quite a loaded question. And
really,
maybe let's
or something. You just got to bite. Just bite.
Exactly. I'll start off with. I think it's because legacy vendors maybe just didn't really realize the change of times. You know, we came out of an industry which was very, you know, server-based property management systems, more and more digitalization, but vendors wanted to do it all in one, which worked out pretty well at the beginning when you really had just a few elements of an hotel, which went through digital transformation. And then at some point, you know, with cloud technology coming to market, in other industries, you know, the cost of development of new systems, of course, clearly reduced and new startups evolved. However, in the hospitality industry, we always were lagging behind because these legacy vendors said, hey, why should I share a piece of the pie? If I can just do it myself and I stay closed and my systems are not made to integrate, to connect with third parties, because it's also a complete different technology. Also moving from proprietary systems on a server, bringing it up into the cloud and building cloud native solutions is also kind of a complete huge process, which doesn't mean that the legacy vendor can actually do it. So with this transformation of technology, you had, of course, space for innovation and space for new players coming to market, with also companies like Hetras, which is kind of the company some of the founders of Apaleo pre-founded the first cloud PMS, when they just kind of tried to build the same PMS, but just in the cloud. And it worked well, it helped, it was a bit more easy to connect, but it was a bit too early in 2008. And now, also with Apaleo, the big focus is to say, hey, we're going away from that all-in-one solution, trying to build all of the different solutions ourselves, to really build an open system which has integrations and connectivity to specialized third-party apps like revenue management, distribution, guest journey, etc., and have that in the core of our DNA. Because more and more parts of the hotel business and other business is going through digital transformation. So you'll always have new startups coming to market who specialize in a certain part of the journey. If it's the employee journey, the guest journey, or maybe sustainability, other elements. And therefore, you need to have that connectivity.
When you're looking at that connectivity and you think about other industries that have been ahead of the hospitality industry, look at the platforms like AWS, or you look what Azure is doing, where they are moved from just storage to huge enablement. Shopify is probably a super example of, maybe where yours and other companies may evolve to, where it's not just a PMS integrated APIs around the moon or around the sun, and these are the moons. How long is it going to take, do you think, for the hospitality industry to actually catch up to other spaces?
Yeah, I mean, I think e-commerce is always on the forefront, and I love Shopify. Shopify has done an excellent job of creating something super simple for the long tail market, making it accessible for them to be able to sell something online. This is something similar to Apaleo in our vision, is saying we want to make it accessible to each independent hotel on the one side, to be able to have the benefits of using different specialized systems without kind of using the enterprise, which was always just available for enterprise, to make it accessible for small ones. But what Shopify also has is this Shopify Plus. And this Shopify Plus element is really that kind of enterprise model where they say, hey, we give access to all of our APIs. You can build stuff on top of it. You can really use it as an enterprise solution with the benefits of all the app marketplace. So this is exactly where also Apaleo is going at the moment, with this mid-sized chains to larger chains focus, where of course you have the app store and making it easy, like an independent hotel, to be able to use and have a nice tech stack for your needs, but at the same time being able to develop custom solutions on top of the APIs, of being able to have multi-property functionalities, real multi-property handling and setup, and really going kind of through this access to data, being able to open complete new frontiers. So I would definitely say that what Shopify created is definitely a great, they're great visionaries and have done an amazing way implementation of it. And how far are we away in hospitality? Hard to say. I think we could see the big shift through COVID. Just in general, kind of the market has woken up, and you even see the bigger, larger enterprise chains to also kind of move away from the more traditional thinking. And of course, they have a very different and more complex tech infrastructure, but also going more into this openness and flexibility. And a lot of mid-sized chains and smaller hotels still look at the larger chains for like, how do they implement new trends, and always see them as an example.
You've inspired me on another question, because that's what you always do, is just do another question. Is when you look at the major, like the brands, right, and they've moved away to asset light, they've moved away to being a distribution and thought brand ID. Are they really tech companies? Are they really that? I mean, are they really tech inspired, or it's just they do the minimum amount of tech that they need to enable the rest of their mandate?
I mean, it depends. But at the moment, we're in touch with a larger operator here in Germany, also strong franchisee, also quite real estate heavy in some elements.
Are you going to tell us their names?
So no. I will not necessarily tell a name directly here, because I want to share some insights in his thought process. And
go ahead.
But if somebody's interested to find out who, they can easily reach out to me. But really, the thought process there is saying, hey, I need to be competitive. I want to have my USP, and I want to have my USP also when I go into a franchise agreement, or if I have my own brand or my white label properties. And my real USP needs to be tech driven. I need a tech platform which allows me to bring more centralization of tasks, more efficiencies, a fully digital guest journey, where again, it's not just about offering a single touch point, like a nice check-in, online check-in, but really looking at how can I optimize my operations through this. And on top of that, how can I, with this model, not just be more efficient, but also be much faster in rolling out new properties? For example, then they signed a new property the brand said, okay, it takes 9 to 12 months until we can bring our systems into your hotel. Should the hotel now stay empty for 9 to 12 months? He said, no, we work with Apaleo. We could go live in less than a month, just so that he could use the asset for 9 to 12 months. And I think this, in the opportunistic growth part and asset light, also going into new properties and
well,
taking
am I
over.
hearing you right that even if there's a company that has signed with a major brand, and due to their lack of ability to deliver the on-property system, the PMS system, and other support systems fast, this owner is, if I've got it right, is going to implement your product for a short period of time to get cash flow and get up and running, and then switch?
And then try and convince the brands, depending on the brands, of course, but then convince the brands that they need that flexibility and that they would ideally want to stay with Apaleo. But already just that saying, hey, we need to have that flexibility and be able to work with a white label concept maybe in the meantime, this is already enough for him or for them as a team, because it's not a one decision maker, it's of course a team taking the decisions, but to go through that. And and him and the team want to build their tech stack with Apaleo just as a core, with different custom solutions, with their own other apps which they want to choose, and then say, hey, we have such a good tech stack here, which we really want to bring into all of our properties, or maybe have different combinations of tech stacks based on the brands and level of service they have, because they say this is our USP. And going to these brands also and saying, hey, please open up, please let us connect, or let Apaleo connect to our CRSs. And some of the large brands are much more open to it.
That's going to be a really interesting dialogue, right? When that's really testing the metal of what is the brand strength versus the manager, right? And the owner that's going to do that. That's pretty interesting. If we can shift.
And the brand itself, just last point on that, the brand itself has also suffered quite a bit. The positioning of the big brands of just saying, hey, I give you my brand here and I'm bringing you this amount of business, so you need to accept this. So this has shifted a bit through COVID and OTAs, etc. So the operators have also gained some other a bit of more strength and saying, hey, if they have the right reasoning, that this can also add value for both sides.
So some of the others that are in the space have already got pilots away with a core and others like that. Do you expect that Apaleo is going to have a similar type of strategy, doing some pilots with some major brands?
So we're definitely working on it, and so there's different brands have different requirements. We've had a lot of different conversations, and I'm very optimistic that we have some great news to share in 2022. And we've been also in these kind of projects around, but there's quite a lot of stuff happening at the moment around this, and this is all our core focus. So it's really this mid-sized chain segment, because there we can benefit the most from multi-property, centralization of tasks, and also automation.
That's great to see the changes happening. So just shifting to maybe more of a topic. It's incredibly unbelievable in some respects, but somewhat believable that there's such a labor shortage across largely the service industry. It's not just limited to the hospitality industry, but based on a recent report done by 60 Minutes in the United States, healthcare and hospitality are the worst hit of any of them, in the 8 to 10% of gross active employee participation or workforce participation. So when you look at the issue of labor, how do you think about solving for giving back time, effectively the greatest commodity in a depleting bank account, time, to businesses to allow the humans to interact with the humans and the technology to take care of everything else? I mean, what are you seeing as the trends or the types of products that your customers are asking for to help put the humans back to contacting humans, and the rest of the stuff getting done by technology? What are you seeing as the trend, the hot buttons?
Yeah, I think it's not just about giving time, because which you had before, maybe because you even have less staff than before the crisis. So
25% less. 25%.
Yeah, it is. And then I was in the UK just now, and everywhere you have wages which are rising, and operational costs which are increased. No, it's a huge topic, and this staffing crisis made a big impact with COVID. Again, is that hotels are thinking less of touch points, but now they're looking more at whole journeys. So the customer journey, the employee journey, and a whole process. So as I also quickly mentioned in the video before, is that before people implemented an online check-in, because they said, oh, there's the queue and we should enable online check-in, and that's cool for business guests, and that's it, so to say. But then they didn't think about, okay, but how many edge cases do we have? How's then maybe the checkout process happening? Are the invoices being sent manually, and all of that? So now hotels are putting much more focus on looking at the whole process and saying, okay, how much human interaction do I need from the staff to be able to do that? Can I maybe also say I only have staff during 10 to 6 p.m. and then the whole check-in in the evening could work automatically? Because if the process only works to 95%, then that doesn't work. So we also have quite a lot of staffless hotels, for example, Numa or Limehome, these new VC-backed concepts growing rapidly. They've all used Apaleo, where they develop on top, because they say, we have no staff there, so it needs to work 100% bulletproof, because there can't be an edge case which doesn't work. So I see this as a big change in giving more time to hoteliers and staff on property, is making processes simpler and making sure that the processes which should be automated, that they're fully automated also in the edge cases, and that you don't have this final part which nobody thought about, which is still kind of having somebody having to do a certain task manually. Because then you can still say, okay, the check-in works out completely automatic. However, I want to have a staff member there, and the staff member is there to greet everybody and can use that time 100% on the guest, but not on any process which doesn't add any value. So these are really elements where I think it makes a big impact.
Maybe if we can just add on and dig a little bit deeper into that. So within the Apaleo ecosystem, and you look at the big problems that are out there, arguably today, like we just explored, just touched on, was the labor shortage. But I love your quote of it's moved from touch points to journeys. So these journeys, looking at how people are approaching it in the broader spaces, that is the service industry, travel, tourism, hospitality, retail, as we think about it at Adapters TechX, is the isolated way of thinking as opposed to the connectivity of those journeys. So digital natives, let's say a millennial is checking in with a millennial. Why are there so many other companies out there that don't think of it as a similar journey with a similar interface, just the other side of the coin? And can Apaleo inspire that? Has Apaleo got other tools or relationships that have been added to your ecosystem that are solving, to make it easier along the journey versus a touch point? Do you have any examples of that, or companies you're working with that have plugged into the Apaleo starship?
Yeah, no, definitely. Just going a bit in the technical element there, what makes us special here is that we're built on a Mach architecture. So for the techies, they will maybe know that microservices, API first, cloud native, and headless. Why am I mentioning that? Really, because I want to focus on that headless element. Is that for us, for a traditional hotel who uses Apaleo, they have different apps connected. They can really streamline a lot of processes and enable that. But we allow also the possibilities of a hotel group or independent hotel to build their own interfaces, because they say maybe, hey, we don't even need the whole complexity of an Apaleo check-in process, because the check-in has been done 100% or 99% online before. So I just need a dashboard where I see checked in, room assigned, or digital guest journey completed, room assigned, and registration form filled out. And they've developed their own kind of dashboard on top. So this is, I'm speaking specifically here from Stay Cook, and others have done other elements also where they self-develop their own dashboards. But Stay Cook has created, from the SV group, they have created the concept Stay Cook, very cool concept, first hotel in Bern, where they have nearly everybody checking in online digitally. And then they even have it connected to their CRM and reminders. So if the digital guest journey has not been filled out, they will get a reminder in the central office, hey, you need to reach out to that potential guest who will be arriving in the next couple of hours or tomorrow at the property. He has not done the check-in yet, so he'll not get the code to be able to enter the door. And please reach out to him to solve that issue already before that he arrives at the door and can't come in. So really going from reactive to proactive. And then they have one host on property who doesn't take care of any of the real check-in processes or something. So he's just there to greet people. So they created a really simple overview for him to really just see, like, who is arriving today and have they done everything perfectly, or is there something I have to take care of? So us kind of saying, as we're a headless platform, we allow hotel concepts to really say, okay, if you want to create an own dashboard or an own interface or an own process, which fits to your process and your property, you have the full flexibility to do so. So this is really giving flexibility to hotels in creating custom, not just guest journeys, but also employee journeys.
So then when you look at the other end of it, which is the back of house technical capabilities, right? And the technical apps that are out there, or the, larger platforms that would, let's say it's something bigger than Apaleo. Here's a question that probably is more succinct than my rambling just then, which is, how do you balance out the Shopify aspect, the stores that you want in Apaleo that bring value to buy all of us or buy some of us and then buy the app? So where are your gaps today in your offering that you're trying to solve for?
I think this is a natural process, and it's always the chicken and the egg issue. Of course, when you start a platform, you need also enough apps on there, and then it's like, okay, but who are your customers? And you need to grow that step by step. For us, already one principle as a platform, which is different than a traditional PMS, is not that we do not integrate to the different vendors from our side so that we own each integration, but we have this API first and standardized API. So 100% of our data points and functionalities are accessible via our APIs.
Sure.
And it's the partners who integrate towards us. So they each time just maintain their integration, and we can always make sure it all works out. So of course, we started off first with apps more for independent properties, and now we are in this segment where we also have quite a few mid-sized chains. So there's also the bigger and players who are integrating against us, where that's often then the challenge, where it's like, okay, are we convincing them to kind of change the way how they think and how they've been working in the past? But we've been quite successful in really preaching our vision and doing that. And where do we want to improve, and which areas? I think on the one side, of course, the big players, we want them on there because also for a lot of our potential customers are working with them. But also we want to make it as easy as that the new innovative apps see us as a platform to enter the market. That they say, okay, if I'm building a new tech and I want to try something out, I want to build it on Apaleo, in the Apaleo ecosystem, because there are thought leaders there. There are a lot of people who are open to test out new things, and the APIs are the best. So I can create the best kind of integration. So this is where we really want to also foster.
But at the end of the day, though,
innovation.
You're a marketplace as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're connecting. Yeah, they're utilizing you as a terminal, like as in a bus station, and it all comes to one point and it gets distributed. So I think where my question was going was, are you short of ERPs? Are you short of Insight AI tools? Are you short of Tableau or Miro like project management tools that, through your ecosystem, your terminal, that there's certain gaps that you have that you say, look, I wish we had this to be able to offer on the demand or supply side?
So I think we have in most of the categories, we have players, but there's still, of course, a huge fragmented market. And there, if you look at point of sales, let's say each country has their own kind of regional or national point of sale leaders. So there, of course, when you want to go to a new market, you need to also have these integrations. Exactly. So this is, I think, an element of scale. Then there's still some big players where we would like to have a direct integration. And there's kind of also always having that, that prospect, which is big enough.
Big player. Can you clarify big player? Is it a big player enterprise level or is it brand?
Enterprise layer. Yeah. Okay. Enterprise level. So, but then it's also, it only becomes a topic when we have then a customer or a potential prospect which wants to come on Apaleo. So I think this is something where everybody always showed kind of the interest because the way how we do it. But of course, it's also development which needs to be built because we think some elements a bit different. But where I would definitely like to see also more solutions around is this whole kind of CRM elements, but guest journey combination, tracking more data, being able to make out of this more insights. And I think this is not necessarily too much about that there's a lot of players who don't want to integrate to Apaleo, but it's more really about that's a new area in the hospitality industry that you have the much more data points to track throughout the customer journey, and that you can go more from a reactive to a proactive customer support and being more proactive in your upselling and data driven. So players like Stay Cook are innovating there and have actually even created their concept, which they want to now sell to other hotel chains. And I find that's very refreshing because I haven't seen something like that before. So for me, this is really the interesting part, is when suddenly there's more access to data. So new business models, new elements are evolving and they can support hotels in that process.
Yeah, as we begin to wrap up here, it's still extraordinary, I think, to our audience, but equally to us here at Adapters TechX, that we continue to think in verticals versus trying to find a horizontal way to connect these points and drive insight. Yep. And I hope all of our conversations inspire those to connect that. And I am absolutely 100% convinced about Apaleo and the intention to keep banging that drum, because we all need this to make our industry that much smarter and easier to attract people and easier to attract investors to the space. It's got to get easier.
Definitely. And just something which I also want to highlight here is that process, of course, you need the right resources. Of course, you need the people with an open mind, the transformation in your business, that people say, hey, we want to go for it. But also don't be scared about kind of like, oh, this is, a complete different world and I can't access it. Because if you know your customer journey, if you know your customers and you're open to look at processes differently, this whole transformation process is also doable. And it's not kind of something for the techies out there, because myself, I come from a hospitality hotel background, and with the right time and effort in there, it is easily you get into it, and therefore I really always want to push it. And these are also topics which you can see at different conferences and stuff, saying, hey, technology and digital transformation is a mindset, and it's not necessarily only about kind of, am I a computer engineer or software engineer? And so it's really something I encourage everybody to go through this process, because we need it. It is something which is inevitable at the moment.
It really is. So again, thank you, Florian, for taking the time. I mean, this feels like we could go on for another 2 hours, because there's just a bucket of concepts that I think we're curious, and we're also advocates for change in the space. So a big thank you. So I'm just going to head a little bit and kind of try and summarize a long conversation. I think the key takeaway here is, touch points versus the journey of the employee, the journey of the guest or customer or user, depending on how you think about it, and equally driving insight for the owners, operators, general managers, and unit level supervisors that can hopefully make their jobs better, but attract a whole cadre of new people where they're going to learn about making it easy, and making it easy to make a guest journey, a user journey, a employee journey, and an owner's insight and operator insight that much better. So, on that note, you'll be able to watch both our opener video where we chatted rapid fire for 9 minutes with Florian, and then a longer conversation on theadapters.net or on other social media channels that'll be published shortly. And a big thank you to the team at Hunter Gatherer, Glenn Hausman over at No Vacancy Live, and all of you that watch. So thanks again, and tune in for another crazy run of ideas from tech leaders in the travel, tourism, hospitality, and retail space.